Hey, Andrew, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your show.
It's a pleasure, sir. I start my show by asking a question that I've been asking for the past 6 to 8 months. I should have started earlier, but all that to say, it's a twofold question. The first is, where are you located on that planet, on this beautiful planet? And how has been going the pandemic for you so far?
I am in Southern California taking care of my mother after my father passed away. As far as how am I doing during the pandemic, it's been really rough, honestly. I've been locked away now, taking care of my mom for almost 2 years, and had a number of businesses. A number of them got crushed during COVID, so it's been trying times. And trying to launch all this new stuff. I mean, book just came out, and all this trying to help the world and people become better people. But it's definitely been a challenging time for sure.
How much of like I've had like a lot of conversation about the rise of anxiety, like m- almost like to a point of like suicidal thoughts or that kind of shit. Have you either gone through or lived or seen or been witness of similar like panic attacks or almost like a um people's phobia or fear of crowd and all that kind of stuff? Like, have you seen that or have lived that yourself?
I've been fairly isolated. I've talked to people over the phone, and people do feel isolated. Certainly, loneliness. Just because of my past, my history, I've been through a lot of that negative thinking, depression, suicidal thoughts, starting when I was a kid. So I have figured out how to overcome some of these things. So I have coping mechanisms in place that help me deal with it. I can't say it hasn't been tough sometimes, but tough times make you stronger, they say. So
And yeah, like this is something that's always in the back of my mind. That's why I do ask the question. Like I've been asking the question for a while now. And the reason is, like it's kind of almost two things. Like the first is kind of my own mini survey around this. And the other one is that like I've it's so funny. I was at lunch with an ex colleague of mine today, and we were talking about this. Like we both work in sales. We both had a lot of opportunities to travel locally, sure, but like also like do like the sales kickoff or whatever, and like travel down like down south or like in the U.S. Um and we've been cut off of all of that. And I was actually telling him that um on not many occasions, because I don't go out much, but like it's not through shopping, like with my son on weekends. It's not in these occasions, but when I'm in the same place for a longer period of time, I do get like it's almost like the tingles, like it's like something in the back of my neck um has like the shadow of a sigh of relief when I get back in my car knowing that I'm going back home. Um, so there's nothing of like there's no anxiety involved. Like there's no panic involved. There's no um, and he actually was saying, yeah, yeah. And his response was, I actually feel weird right now. And I was like, exactly. Like it's not. Like I wouldn't say that I felt weird, but there is something, like there's definitely a trauma, like from the lighter side of it, which I think I'm in, to much heavier for people that were predisposed on anxiety, panic, and so on.
sure.
Um, and this is, like this is, like that kind of that little survey of mine is just well, to reassure that I'm not crazy.
No, I think
But
there's a lot of people out there that are feeling differently nowadays. And again, we could get into my history a little bit as we go forward, but at one point I was hit by a car and I was laid up for so many years, and I just couldn't go anywhere comfortably, or just to get in a car was a nightmare. So when I did start going out again, I had such anxiety just being in a car. Like I had PTSD because was hit in 1999, couldn't walk, couldn't stand up much. Finally got better about 2007. I was hit again, so I was laid out to like 2010. And seriously, I had just anxiety about going out. It wasn't so much being somewhere, but getting in a car and sitting in a car because I was hit from behind, just sitting at a stoplight. Um, it is this relief factor when you make it home. And I've been hit by 4 cars and attacked by dogs, and so many fights and weird places and things happen to me that I don't know about you, but sometimes when those things happen and then you come home and your place kind of glows. There's just ambiance, this energy that you're just can see everything clearly and how appreciative you are and how grateful you are just to be able to be home.
There's a feeling of almost like a nest, like that you're protected.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
subtle, like it's almost like subtle to a point of not being real, right? Like it is really, really subtle. Like I said, like that shadow of a sigh of relief. Like
Did I
there's
just lose you?
nothing that I could put my finger on saying, well, I feel like that. Or it was just like a like a like the shadow of a feeling. That's the
I
best
see.
way I can describe it. Like it's not paralyzing. It's definitely not something that like I'm gonna feed or fuel. Like it's like I actually quite the opposite. Like I want this to be gone. Like I don't want to be. I don't want to stay in like in or go further or deeper in that feeling. Like it's well, first of all, it's a
Well,
shitty
it's I think
feeling,
that's
and
their
second of all,
yeah.
it's
I'm sorry.
no. I was just about to say it goes against my job. Like it goes completely against um my professional life. Like I work in sales. I should be meeting people. I should be sitting down and lunching and having a good time with the like with my customers. Um, and I have like and right now I don't think it's the right moment to do so. Like especially with like I don't know like the 17th fucking wave that we're going through. But but all that to say, like that when if ever it comes back to any normalcy, um I hope like that like I'm gonna chase and heal from those like I would say micro traumas as soon as possible.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think people that haven't had these major things happen to them before probably will recover faster when it does end, but it depends on how long it takes. You know what I mean? It's I don't know if you look back in history, we see like the measles and polio, and the COVID is like the Spanish flu in a way, in the sense that it just ravages people's lives and takes all the weak, stresses out your organs. So if it keeps mutating, it's like uh, will it attack healthy people to the point where everybody's laid out and we can never function, or is it we're going to have to deal with this? I think it's as a society, obviously, we can't just lock ourselves away and we're going to shrivel up and all die. So we have to figure out a way how we can live. And that's where this whole idea between the anti-vaccination and the vaxxers is everything is so extreme and exploitative right now that everybody wants to divide us and make some type of war out of it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is, and that mentality is fueled by us all being alone and isolated and not always trusting what our media is telling us, or sometimes our government's telling us. It seems like people are more into manipulating us than they're sharing the truth so we can make informed decisions. And everybody's just pissed off, I think, and frustrated with the whole thing. You know what I mean? So I think there's just a higher level of anxiety overall in the world right now, but it's also for a purpose, right? It's all to get us to wake up and to focus to make these great changes in our world that need to happen. I mean, if you look before COVID, doomsday was running down and people were still just watching TV and didn't really care. Now it seems like more people are focused like we've never been before and are not okay with the big wrongnesses that we see in the world. We
yeah.
all kind of want to fix them. So that's
Uh,
why I'm here. That's the
I'm
whole
curious.
reason why I'm on your show and I'm doing any of this is because I found solutions to the world's greatest problems. I know that sounds weird, but I'm only here because I showed them to people and they're like, yeah, you need to do this. So here I am.
Yeah. Um, let's let's kind of go back to the regular programming of that show, and I do ask the same question to all of my guests, which is, if I had to rewind back your life story and find the first chapter of that life story book, how far back would you bring me into, like any events or stuff that you've
Sure.
witnessed or you've gone through that would, has put a dent and, made you who you are,
Yeah.
or you
Well, it
were?
starts at the very beginning for
Where
me.
do you
I'm
bring me
sorry.
back to?
You're cutting out, just so you know, on my end a little
Okay, go
bit.
ahead.
You're cutting out. I missed a few words here and there. I think the people, like you said, it's
Oh,
recording on
I'm
both
sorry.
ends, so people are listening. We're okay. I don't mean to cut you off. Um,
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll try to be careful. Like maybe it's not because I'm not as close as I
yeah,
should
that's that's much
on my mic. So sorry about that.
okay. Well, everybody, when I tell this story, they always want me to start from the beginning because it all starts there. Because I was born with dyslexia, other learning disabilities, a lazy eye. The lazy eye meant I was seeing 2,200 vision out of that eye. So they put a patch over my good eye to make me look out of that bad eye. Needless to say, not being able to see, having dyslexia and other learning disabilities. I couldn't read, write, do arithmetic. I couldn't catch a ball to save my life. I was mocked every day, called stupid. Even teachers got into it. I had a teacher in elementary school just laying into me in front of the whole class, telling me I was too stupid to learn anything and I should just leave. So this being bullied all the time and all of this negativity created a lot of negative thinking in my life, especially when I was a kid. I did end up graduating from elementary school. I went into high school. I kind of came over my fears, became a school leader, was on track, cross country, went to college, ran for programming commissioner, won that. It was on the crew, which is the rowing team. I graduated with speech communications, theology, and philosophy. And I started a bunch of different companies. I've done just about every job you can imagine. I've traveled the world. Right after college, I got a job in Japan, lived there for years, traveled around the world. Like I said, started a lot of different companies. But while all this was going on, because of all these traumas I've been through, and again, I've been hit by cars multiple times where I couldn't stand up and walk for years. I been hit by dogs or attacked by dogs. One time where I almost lost my leg. More fights than most people can imagine. So just a lot of trauma throughout my life, and this led me to, as a kid, into some spiritual experiences, to really questioning why we're here and all these other deep questions, and I wanted answers to them. And throughout my life, I've been on this mission to find them. And again, I've had some spiritual experiences, kind of led me down a certain path, but it showed me solutions to how we can all become the best people we can be, and we can fix our world. It took me 30 years of work and writing, and then in 2015, I kind of discovered the 7 steps to the way. The book is called The Way, um, and it's really a guidebook on how we can become the best people we can be. And just to tie this back with the theme of your show, this whole negative thinking, depression, and suicidal thinking, I have videos on how to overcome that, how to overcome depression. Addiction. I have a video on that. It's also in the book as part of how we can become better people. Because I think that this whole aspect of humanity is part of the challenge of why we're here. It's like, how do we deal with all of these different challenges? And if you know the right way, the best practices on how to do different things, you can overcome them. It's like, here's how you walk, here's how you talk better, here's how you communicate better, here's how you deal with your mind and your emotions and all of these issues. If we all knew how to do with it, then we can all get through it in a much easier way. So that's why I'm here. I'm trying to uh, just get these solutions out in the world. I've been, behind the 8 ball and kind of crushed, and don't have the super resources like so many people do in the world. And I'm just trying to join with other people and figure out how we can share all this with everybody. Does that all make sense?
It does. Let's try to take it
Sure.
one by one, or at least, maybe we want to categorize them, but you're right. Like I've started that podcast quite humbly. Decided that, like I do have a full-time job, so like there's no plan of monetizing that podcast, for example. Like there's no plan. Like I bought everything. I did, like a lot of research to find the good equipment. Realized that, like implementing video, for example, was too costly, and like I didn't want to cheap out on having like bad video or bad audio because I wanted video. So I decided to discard the video portion. But all that to say that the humble beginnings I think are the best. Like it's a journey I started 2.5 years ago, and like I'm like it fulfills me so much. And like I've had a few testimonies of people reaching out or reaching to others saying that like that listening to that has helped. Like so that's all I needed. Like that's all. I didn't ask for much, but like just having a few people saying thumbs up, like continue that job. I mean, I'm good. Like I'm good to go for a while
That's
now.
good.
So
That's awesome.
yeah. Um, so if we do take a few of them,
Sure.
like one by one, what was your relation? What kind of kid were
What do you
you,
mean?
first of all?
Like,
Well,
oh,
an introvert. Like we're trying to, like
I think I
socially,
wanted to be
like how
social, and I was very happy and extroverted, but it just became so crushing. It's like I wake up. I remember, it's like you wake up happy, you wake up wanting to go out there, and then it's like, stupid kid, and it's just all so negative. And then every day, it just never stops. Thrown in trash cans, stripped down naked, mocked in front of the whole school, just whatever. Boys are relentlessly mean. I mean, I don't even know what to say to you. Uh, so after a while, it just became like I wanted to exist in my mind. And because I was half blind and I literally was like looking through cotton, um, I would just like, I don't know how to describe it, like have detailed fantasies in my life. Like you remember the cartoon Kimba and was it Casper the Ghost? Casper the Ghost was like my best friend because he was like the same as me. It was like this guy wanted, or this kid that wanted to have friends, and everybody was bullying him. So I, in my mind, would just kind of be there, but also be somewhere else, to some degree. And that kind of hurt me too because then you're not listening to anybody around you. Um, so it took me a long time to kind of deal with that reality, and I started to see better as I got older because I was wearing the patch for years and years. Um, I was able to integrate a little better, and then they finally took the patch off. Not that my other eye is perfect, but I still don't have like I don't see in 3D and all that kind of thing, but it's not turned in as much as it was. So for me, it was okay. How do I deal with the world and not lose my soul? You know what I mean? Because as a kid, when you start down this path of negativity and people telling you should just die, and you realize you could kill yourself, and you just don't want to be around anybody. You don't want to be in school for certainly. I remember making like I was super sick for so long, like weeks and weeks, just because I just couldn't handle going to school anymore. I was just mentally ill of being there. It was so nobody seemed to care. You know what I mean? It was like bullying. Even now, I've been on shows where people just dismiss it, like, "Oh, it makes you stronger. Look how great you became." It's like, yeah, maybe somebody made it through. It doesn't mean I'm not scarred, and I don't wish it didn't happen to me. And it's because the bullies need correcting, but we just think the bullies are okay for some reason, and nobody takes the time to figure out how to help them to become better people. So the kids that are bullied too. I mean, I was in this learning disabled group with handicapped kids and learning disabled kids, and it just mocked relentlessly. You know what I mean? Like just made fun of, and games played on them and tricked, and just horrible things. And it's like every day you go to school and you're coming home crying. It just, you say, "Oh, that's okay." It's not okay. To fix this in our society is how we can also help heal our, adult society, because these bullies grow up and they are owning businesses and treating people this way throughout their lives, and it's not okay. And again, I'm going to have videos on how to overcome that. That's in the third book. I'm going to be doing a video on how to overcome bullying. And it's really to realize, let me just say this about bullies. As I went through school, I was bullied relentlessly. And it's always the kids that are like a year or two older than you that do it. When I became in sixth grade, I was as big as the bullies. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm like 6'1" now, 195. Always been an athlete, and I'm a bit of a scrapper. So in sixth grade, when they pulled this on me when I came back, it was like 2 fights. and it was done. Nobody messed with me. The second fight, all the bullies like literally paraded me around the schoolyard like I was some hero. And as I got to know these kids later, as I went through the later years in school, their lives were horrible at home too. They were acting out in school, being bullies because they weren't being loved or given, you know, right treatment emotionally and mentally at home. So, it's like this vicious cycle of, then if we just help the bullies learn how to become protectors instead of bullies, and they can get a better satisfaction out of helping kids instead of hurting them and all the rest of it, we could solve one of the greatest problems in our world, right? Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yeah. So,
The like in terms of, like the academic side of things, like, I mean, the social, um, like it was obviously challenging, but, was the academia, going,
no,
going well?
it was so traumatic because they would only do the cookie cutter approach. You know what I mean? It was like either you fit in or you didn't. So for me, then I had to go to this special like learning disabled group, and it was only in this special class and at home that I got uh, different ways of doing things. Instead of memorizing math tables, it was picturing a story. Like an eight is a snowman and whatever. You know what I mean? You go through these little picture games, and so it became a nightmare in school because it almost didn't matter sometimes, like how many times I learned how to spell a word or do a math problem or a formula. It just wouldn't stick sometimes. You know what I mean? Or when I wrote it down, it was just backwards. An E was an R or whatever. And it was so hard because there's so many scratches on the paper if you're writing something, and it just, you know what I mean? It just looks crazy. So, and then it's all backwards. Not only do I write the words wrong, but the whole sentence is messed up. You know what I mean? And then it's like you have to rewrite everything. So, like I said, so the whole thing was really, really difficult. I think I was able to pass. And again, when I say I had kind of some gifts, I think one, I can memorize patterns. I can see patterns in things, and very easily. And in elementary school, they give you the same standardized test, I think, every single year. And I started to remember that it was the same questions. And I remembered the pattern on the Scantron test of what all the right answers were. And I remember in sixth grade, I took this test, and it was like this snake pattern that went through the Scantron test. And I remembered it from fifth grade because they'd show you all the right answers, where you got wrong so you could remember it next year. And I just did the Scantron test like that. And they're like, wow, you did so well on this test. And I was like laughing in my head because I probably read about half the questions, and I just knew what the right answer was without even having to go through it. Um, I don't know why I just told that story, but it just is, like I said, for me, it was always, kids could study for an hour and it took me 10. I mean, it was just never ending. In college, I luckily got involved with what they call the learning disabled students, and had to do with people that had, physical handicaps as well as mental. And I went in there just because I had hurt myself really badly. I burned my hand, and I twisted my ankle in this accident. And I was in there, and they were like, "Do you ever have problems with whatever?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have through school." And anyway, they did all these tests, and then I got note takers in class, and I got book readers so I could listen to the books. And oh my God, that made the biggest difference in the world. I don't know that I would have graduated from college, honestly, because the reading load was so large, and I could listen to books super fast. And when I say that, I don't know if you know this, but the blind, I know a lot of blind friends I had when I was a kid, they can listen to something at the handicapped people. They give you this book player that plays things at high speed, and it's literally like if you were playing a recording at high speed, and it was like a chipmunk. They can understand and give you comprehension levels that are unbelievable. And I'm a audio learner, so when I was able to start learning through listening to books, it just opened up a world for me. I've listened to thousands of books. I mean, I've listened to more books than most people have ever read or listened to in their entire life. It just becomes a part of my life. I carry around a book player at all times, and I have since I was very, very young. So, um, what I want to say is, I deal with these people a lot, with people like write off kids like you're stupid. And what I want to say to you is, don't ever write off anybody. You do not know what this kid can turn out to be. if you treat them well, give them the right training and the right tools, and help find their abilities and then help them grow those and compensate for the things they can't do well, they'll go much further in life. I mean, if I didn't have to cry every day when I was trying to learn things because people were calling me stupid or just because people were bullying me all the time, my life would have been so much better as a kid. I mean, I was a happy kid. I was a kid that liked to get up and clean and, do stuff. And I'm always ready to jump in. You know what I mean? And then that just kind of got crushed out of me because I got so depressed and I just didn't even want to awaken. When I woke up in the morning, it was like hey, then you remember. And it's like this crushing weight is just pushed on you and you have to get up and you got to make yourself go through it every day. You know what I'm saying? So I think the goal of this show, and I think the whole idea of this is to stop it from happening. I mean, these kids that are bullies, the first thing you need to do is switch it up on them and don't let them get away with it. As in, you need to investigate why this is happening to them, but make them apologize. You need to put them in front of the whole class, embarrass them, and say, now, Johnny, you did this wrong. How would you feel if somebody did this to you? This idea of treating others as you would want to be treated, you have to literally like burn this into children's brains that they have to start thinking this way. Do I want to be treated this way? Am I treating this kid the way that I want to be treated if I were in their situation? Because it brings empathy into their minds and it will make them stop doing these things. My dad even went as far as, like with my brother and some other kids, to put them in the same situation. You know what I mean? And make them feel like I was feeling, and so they could understand that it's not okay. And once you do this in front of the whole class and you explain to the bully, now you're going to be Andrew's protector from now on to make sure nobody's bullying him, right, Johnny? You know what I mean? Johnny's like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? It's like you could flip the switch on this. You, instead of just sending the bully home and saying you're grounded or you're expelled from school, it's almost like, yeah, so now I get to go home and not go to school. Wow, what a great punishment for a kid. And if their parents aren't disciplining them or they don't know how, then this kid is really not having any type of experience that's going to change. If anything, you're reinforcing it. I don't know many kids, especially in elementary school or high school and junior high, that wouldn't mind sitting at home and playing video games instead of going to school or something. So does that all make sense?
It does. It does. Like I love that. Um, you want to, you want to prevent at the root of it all. Like so this, there's definitely something different when like it comes um to substance abuse, for example, because like it takes a while almost before you realize it. Not only that, but like there's like there's the nature and nurture debate, long life debate. um I think I had that in my gene. Like I was an obsessive compulsive human being that like happened to fall to have like alcohol and drugs fall into my lap, and it was convenient for my obsessive compulsive habits or genetic. So it took a while before I realized
Well,
that
can we talk about that for 1 second?
like
Because
not
I
only
have a video on this, and I think it's
sure.
and this is the whole point about raising our kids correctly. So just so people understand, the way is 3 books. So the first book is The Way. It's all 7 steps. It covers all the main philosophy. The second book is called The Life Manual. It's a companion to step 5, where you get the deep knowledge on how to handle the foundations of life, which is all the basics, that make you a human being. The third book is the Child and Family Guide, and the idea is, if we can raise our kids with the best habits as their first habits, meaning the best ways of doing things, right? The integrating virtue into their life so that they just are this way and they don't have to relearn something later. Um, and realizing that not all children are the same. Like you said, if you can test children and find out their innate, like consistency of being, right? So if you're more compulsive, this kid's more of a thinker, whatever it may be, right? You have all these different facets of what it makes up to be a human being, and you test them. You can help mold this child to deal with these issues. You know what I'm saying? If I'm quick to jump in. Every second you got to teach this kid some more control. If you're too much of a thinker and you're never jumping in, you got to teach this kid a little bit more assertiveness and stuff. So you know what I'm saying? We need to be able to look at our children and help them develop themselves so that they can become the best people they can be. And the only way that you can do that is to realize that all human beings share similarities, right? We all need to eat and sleep and drink and have emotional stimulation and mental and all the rest of these things. But at the same time, we need to do this in a way that allows the children to be individuals and have that specific need met. Now, when you're dealing with bullies, right, a lot of bullies are very hardcore A personality men or women. They're very driven, they're very action oriented. And the problem is that in their uh, home life, most of the time, they are not given the positive feedback they need, right? So they're giving negative feedback on their actions. So when they go out in the world, they're acting out this negative way of being to get the feedback that they think they need, right? They have no idea what they need because they're a kid. They're just getting it what's in their environment. So if you realize this as an educator, you can take this kid and not just like be, oh, Johnny, you're mean, you're a dumbass. Stop it, go home. You know what I mean? It's like, no, this kid needs help. Like literally, how do you make this kid into a better person? Like, because that's really what's going to solve this problem. And we all need to be shaken to awaken and burn to learn sometimes, especially kids, right? Especially hardcore men, especially, right? We're not just going to give in just by somebody saying something once to us. We need to be able to feel it. And with children, especially, these children are having chemicals flowing through their bodies like they have no control over. So if we can then step in and moderate that and help them feel things that they need to feel, it will change who they are. And with the bully, like I said, one of the biggest things is this idea of empathy and sympathy. They're missing it. So they are feeling isolated and they're reaching out in a negative way to have somebody correct them, and they're not being corrected and they keep up this bad behavior. So the idea of correcting the bully is to make this bully feel bad for what they're doing, right? Feel empathy for this other kid. Um, Now, and again, this is complicated as far as how you do it all, but it's very simple in the sense this kid has got to understand that they need to feel like I want to be treated the way that I'm treating other people. This idea of uh, the golden rule. If we can instill that in the idea of equality into our kids, that people are equal and we're treating everybody as we want to be treated, it'll alleviate most of the problems in the world. You throw in one more law, these are all in the way, just so you know, which is respect life, which is caring for our womb, our world here that we live in, make it thrive so we can thrive. And you do solve most of the problems in the entire world. So is that all making sense so far? Yeah.
It does. It does. And it's I mean, there's definitely there's a lot that go through inspiration, like and copycatting the good habits, right? Like there's a sense of I've had my share of like the right people and the right entourage, like around me, but at the same time, um and like I'm not saying that, Andrew, like to contradict anything that you're saying. um at 46, 16 years plus in sobriety, um I still find um kind of like the traces of these habits, or not habits, but behaviors still in me. And sometimes it's like it's podcasting was a great example of that, where I was it was easy for me to compulse
Yeah.
and be booked um every single night of the week. And at some point, my wife, that's been with me for over 13 years now, would just like almost like put her hand on my shoulder and say, 7 nights a week of podcast recording is too much. Relax. Like everything's going to be fine. And I would, well, first disagree with her and be pissed and then, kind of calm down and think about this and realize that she was right. Like it was a compulsory behavior that, like I
Yeah.
have to be careful with.
Well, like I said, I mean, as a
Um,
kid, though, did you know you
and
had
almost,
this? And did people teach you how to moderate it when you were a child?
haha, it's looking back,
If they didn't,
you know,
then it's like you said. I
you
mean,
know, like it's,
the therapy thing is can or cannot work. You know what I mean? It's not all up to Freud and Jung or whoever whoever the therapist version that you followed to give you the answer. You know, a lot of life, when I go through the book, I talk about this, is the human conditions really focus us in three ways. And one of those ways is self control. Okay. Your compulsiveness, right, is part of humanity. We all have it a little bit. Some of us, my mom, believe me, I get it. Okay. I have that. We have this in my family too, and I have it too. Okay. And I have other things. But it doesn't really matter because the whole idea of you being you is to be in control of who you are. So the thing is, like when you were a child and you grew up, you develop certain ways of being that are kind of like your default way. And then when you were saying last 16 years, you're 40 something. So now you're trying to change your default way of being. And what happens is this is the disconnect with all of us is because we have our, and again, if you're born and you grow up to about 25, that is who your brain is, right? Everything that you do from that point on, you're trying to change this pattern that you've ingrained of the way that you are. And you can do that. And I've done it, and everybody does it as we grow. We keep changing and developing. But it doesn't mean we don't have these, like what I have is I have some deep scars from when I was a kid. I mean, they are there. I cannot, no matter what I do, am going to make them go away. You know what I'm saying? Like you have this people call it disorder, right? It's just a really intense need to do certain things. You get super focused. Believe me, I get that way. I can sit in front of my and try to finish something till it's done and not eat or sleep or do anything else. But that's not going to make you a better person. So you have to learn, right? You have to learn
absolutely.
how to control yourself. And it just means that God made you in a way that give you these little more embedded things that you need to work on to when I say assert your being. You know what I'm trying to say is like we create ourselves. We how do I say this? Let me go back. I have this discussion about the mind a lot with people because it's where does it all start? You know, in your soul, your spirit, and in reality, it's all of who you are, your emotions, your mind, your spirit, everything together. But your mind is what kind of can change everything. The same thing with your body. If you work out, you get emotional stimulation. But if your mind isn't right, it's still not going to allow you to move to that next step. So the idea of the way is to walk people through a certain way of understanding reality and who they are and what you're here for and how you deal with yourself. And, one of the biggest keys that I ever found in my life was this idea of the mind. Because when you're a kid and you're going through all this stuff and you're going to psychologists and whatever, so you study all this. And Freud, I think, did us a disservice because he broke it up and made you seem like you're a million different minds and you're all competing with yourself. And and if you go Zen, you go Eastern, you get the oneness idea. So I was in martial arts. I've done I have degrees in Eastern philosophy. I've always been into this whole Western Eastern thing. And I went to a Zen retreat one time where you don't speak. All you do is meditate. And you have the yogi guy will tell you certain things and help you through certain things. Um, but what happens is your mind is like this TV set most of the time for most people. It just runs, it changes channels, you feel emotions, depending what's on at any moment, and you have no control. Once you learn how to control your mind and you stop that TV set from happening, it changes who you are. And I was at this retreat. It was like the second day or third day I was there. Um, it just stopped. There was finally this silence. And it was a little trippy. It was like from that moment on, my mind was different. It was in my control, and I wasn't subject to that uh, TV set running all the time. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I could take control of it again. And it it is something that if we teach our children and we teach general society on how to do all of these things, like how to manage your mind, your emotions, your spirit, how to deal with these negative situations, how to have a better communication, how to handle, better friendships, all the keys that we all need, and we help each other with those keys, and we're all helping each other be better people. That's how we create a better world. Does that all make sense?
It does. In the addiction um, lingo, well, here in Quebec, there's two types of therapy. One is actually called arm reduction, and it is the one that is funded by our public sector. Um, the other one is actually more. They're almost not exclusively, because some like is out of, but like the rest, which are more private therapy centers, are more inspired by the 12 steps, which has like a total abstinence. um it's kind of the foundation of it, like it's total abstinence of like the substance you abused. um and harm reduction has been something that like I've tried and failed, and like I've always kept my mind as open as possible, but knowing that I probably cannot, well, for today, let's say that way, I cannot touch any of these these
Yeah.
substance anymore. Like it's like I'm I don't have the genetic um recipe for
Well,
drinking
let me say this
casually,
to you,
for
because
example.
I
You know,
I have a different take on this, and I think it's through studying of the mind. When I was into this, I had this huge breakthrough at one point. Okay, you know what the difference is between somebody that can succeed in overcoming these things compared to the person that doesn't, and it always comes down to the same exact thing. It took me like 15 years of research to realize this. It's belief. That is it. The number one thing for anybody to overcome whatever it is you're dealing with. And again, I've healed myself from almost losing my leg like in 3 days after being told they were going to cut off my leg, to healing it, to healing my back without surgery that was, ruptured discs and everything else. And it's the power of your belief. If you can believe that you can do this, and you go through the steps and you go through everything that you need to do, you can. Now, as far as being able to use certain substances to a certain degree or not, depends what it is. Like, do you even want it in your life? If it's not helping you at all, then you don't need it. But one of the keys to addiction is to realize that it's innate in us. What I mean? We're addicted to good things like food, but if you take it too far, right, it becomes obesity. You become a glutton. You know what I mean? It's like sex. We need it to procreate. It's a loving act with your wife, but if it goes too far, it can be really destructive, right? So we're made
yep,
to deal with temptation, and it's literally built into our life. And then there's things that we can be tempted to do. But like you said, and I think it was in the beginning or when we were talking, sometimes you just get exposed to things you don't even know what they are, and then you become addicted. Especially like the young, like if they get exposed to tobacco, like I did. It was chewing tobacco in sports. It was like all the guys were doing chewing tobacco, and it's like, oh my god, what a nightmare to quit that. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, or an adult is smoking. So you, as a kid, you smoke. At 16, you pick up cigarettes, or you start, snorting cocaine with your friends because they're doing it. Whatever it may be, it usually starts pretty young. If you do it older, what I would like to see is some type of mass educational program on what all these different drugs are, so everybody knows. Like, dude, you don't want to be at a party and try some crack cocaine because it could ruin your life. Like from that moment on, you know what I'm saying? Like you need to
yep,
know, like ecstasy. What does it do to you? Oh, if you do it too much, it'll destroy your spine. What are you saying? You know what I mean? Like kids, they don't understand any of this, and it's so taboo. We don't even talk about it. Just don't do it. It's like, no, what you really need to do is treat them like a human being and go through each one of them, show them the effects of it, how it will destroy their life, and why they don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Because if you just say don't do it,
absolutely.
you're almost guaranteed every single kid is going to go check it out, right? Especially that's the whole thing about teenagers and whatever. So it just seems like it's a bit backwards to me. And as far as
Yeah.
addiction goes, one of the biggest keys I found is you're not stopping something. You're doing something else. It's like you're not quitting smoking. If you think I'm quitting smoking today, I'm quitting smoking, I'm going to stop, I'm going to stop, I'm continuing to stop, you're probably never going to give it up. What you need to do is go, I'm being healthy. I'm living a healthy lifestyle, and replace that negative thing with something positive. Like now you're working out. And, every time I've gotten through or people through addiction, it's because you can get positive endorphins in your body through exercise and through mental stimulation. So, meditations and things. So, if you replace these negative activities with positive activities and you just realize over time doing positive activities will change who you are, you will get through the addiction, right? Because an addiction is only something that will last for a certain amount of time where it's literally a physical thing. Like if you're addicted to um, cocaine or tobacco or whatever it may be, then it becomes a mental game, right? So your body's overthrown it. You've gone through your withdrawals and all this stuff. And every once in a while, you're like, oh my God, I want a cigarette. You know what I mean? Oh, it's just, oh, my friends are doing this Coke. What am I going to do? I really want to do it with them. Whatever it may be. You know what I mean? That's a moment of temptation. This is the whole point of like why you're here. Like I said, if you understand like the whole point of why you're here, this idea of making yourself into a better person, the challenges of life, these built-in temptations are to see, are you going to take the dark road or the light road? Are you going to make the right choice or the wrong choice? You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's so hard. If it weren't a challenge, if you know what I mean, it wouldn't be even worth it. So all the people that I've ever met that have overcome these challenges in life um, are stronger people for it. It may not ever go away because it's a temptation. You know what I mean? Until you pass on from this life, a lot of the temptations aren't going to leave you. It's just the way it is. But every time you pass them up, every time you walk by, the stronger you will get. Right? I mean, you've known this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've for me, it's just it's a complete different chapter of my life. Like to a point where um, it feels like another person. It
Yeah,
feels like someone else.
absolutely.
Um, so like it's just like 16 years ago. Um, my father asked me if I would like to kind of help myself, and I said yes, and um I let go. Like I was like, whatever it is, like I I can go on like that. Like so I was actually just offered to go in therapy, and I do have flashbacks of like some behaviors and some like some like of the way I've behaved and what was with people, and I was just wow, like that it doesn't feel like me. So it really is
Oh, I feel
weird.
like that. Like there's a Jung talks about your shadow self a lot in psychology, and it's this idea of like you could be this negative you or the positive you. And I think for some of us, like because I went through like knowing I was a really positive kid, and then going through this whole negative years of my life where I wanted to kill myself. I thought about it all the time, and it was just like this negative view of you and your life. And I can literally sometimes switch back and forth between those views. You're like, no, I'm positive. No, you know, and it just became this idea of like, well, which person do you want to be? I mean, who are you really? And it always came down to we are really
Yep.
ultimately, if you are the best person you can be, the positive you, that best version of yourself. You are the guy that overcomes those challenges. I don't care what it is, addiction, divorce, losing your legs, being paralyzed. I mean, this is a temporary world. Okay. Just realize that you're not going to live this way forever. No matter what you think, it will change. Okay. So, with that understanding, if you are able to take certain ideas, certain ways of being into yourself and be that person, then you change. Right. So, I've been there where you can barely even just want to get out of bed. Like even like from when I was hurt in bed and I was so depressed, man, I was in my 30s and my back was broken and my life was ruined. And I just started this company and I'm literally out in agony, just trying to type on the computer and make things work. And sometimes you just break down into tears because you're just so hurt. But just the idea is you just never stop, though. You know what I mean? You find the answers. Like for me, it was more yoga, therapy, mental, go back to the hardcore meditation for hours. Any moment I started to go negative, it was right back to the center light thing, clearing myself out. And yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it doesn't always feel right. But by the time you're done with that day, trust me, the difference between you laying in your bed and not doing anything and getting up, stretching, cleaning your house, brushing your teeth and just doing the basics, feeding yourself, drinking enough water, not abusing anything. By the time you get to bed, you will feel 1,000% better than the day where you did nothing and you abused yourself and you sat in front of the TV and you ate junk food and you're not sleeping right, you're not taking care of yourself or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? There's a night and day, and you just got to realize the more positive stuff you string together, the more positive of a human being you will be. And the whole reason I wrote this book, and everybody told me I had to do it, even though I have dyslexia, this is like, it might take somebody, 10,000 hours, took me hundreds of thousands of hours to do this. And I only did it because these are the answers. If they're not the answers, believe me, I've showed it to everybody. Nobody tells me that I've missed anything. So they're always like, yes, you're right. This is, and I'm not saying that out of ego. This isn't about me. This is like some half-blind dyslexic kid who found something in a cave and is just trying to share it with people. It really has nothing to do with me. So what I'm trying to do is find people that can understand this and we can share it with the world because it'll change everything. It's like you have kids right now. And I know your answer already. If you can say to anybody, if I could give you the tools to give this kid the best habits so they can become the best person they can possibly be, would you want those keys and would you want to teach them to your kid? And Alex, what's your answer? Of
It
course, of
absolutely.
course. And I just want to say this to all of humanity. You look at the world right now and all throughout history, what is so ridiculous, okay, and is absurd as we are as a species that we have to realize it's almost laughable. It is laughable, but it's also really sad. And it's also then easily fixed. Is that we all want the exact same things. I've talked with people all over this world, and it is absolutely true, right? Everybody wants a great government, a healthy world, education, vacation, be happy, you name it, great relationships, to communicate well. And again, these are all like the virtues of life, right? Everybody wants the same things. And if we look at our world and you're like, then why is it this way? It's because there's a few people that don't understand the core values of life that I outline in the way, and they become corrupted, right? They become this mass murderer or owning corporations that are destroying the world and flying around in spaceships instead of paying their people a decent wage and taking care of the supply chain so they're not endlessly plasticizing the world and all the rest of the wrongs, right? That we all know of. We're all sitting around going, why? Nobody wants pollution. So why are we even fighting about this? Like every company should be working towards stopping the pollution, period. It's not that big a deal. But for some reason, we have this huge disconnect with just about everything that you're seeing wrong with the world. You can talk to people in their home and be like, yeah, everybody would agree it's wrong and it shouldn't be. So what I'm here for, and the only reason I wrote this book and I'm doing this, because it even outlines how we can fix our society in this book. It's just like, come on, people, we just need to get on the same page. And there's so many democracies that we can then just literally vote ourselves into a better world. I don't know. Does this make any sense? I don't know if I'm making sense on the show. It's really hard as an author
It
to just summarize everything in a couple
it
words. But
I know, but it does. It does. And like my next question was, what inspired you to actually, like you said, a lot of people told you or like ask you that, like to put actually just put them into words and to write books. But what was, like what was the motivation of, like actually wanting to share this to the outside world?
oh, I always have a hard time answering this question because I don't want to put anybody off, but I also want to be totally honest. And there's a lot of people that have a hard time with the word God, right? And I I just want to say I'm not talking about a God of any religion. I'm talking about the creator God, as in This is reconciling science and religion, okay? Because in science, they always say, like, you can talk to physicists, which I have, and they'll be like, yeah, nothing, the nothingness created everything. And it came out of nothingness, and that's how we got the Big Bang and everything else. And I'm like, okay, so if you just take this idea of the nothingness and make that God, then we're on the same page. Because this idea of something coming out of nothing is the idea of a thought creating something in the world. So it's not that big a deal. So for me, this all started when I was really young, to some degree, and I could share spiritual experiences that I had with you. Some of them, I mean, the stories, some of them aren't super short, but all I can say is when I was a kid, I was shown that there it doesn't need to be this way. Okay, when people say, "Oh, God's doing this. This is God's plan," no, it's not. Okay, the plan was to let humanity decide. Okay, we are the deciding factor. We choose our reality. We were put here because the idea of being made in the image of God and the children of God, meaning we have the capacity to understand. We are many creators, but we have the capacity of good and evil in us, right? So the idea of choice, the idea of what are we doing as a society? Are we creating a better world or a worse world? And if you look at all of human history, you can see this fight. And I've seen it all, since the beginning of recorded history. It's always like some guy just becomes a super huge jerk. And it just becomes more and more and more until the people lose it. And we have a revolution and we overthrow him. We try to start something new. We find a new king. He's a great guy. And then his son is now a jerk and we have to overthrow him. And then we find this idea of like begging all these super rich, powerful people, why are you so corrupted? Why are you treating us like crap? And they're all like, because I have the right. I'm divine right. You are all my slaves. You are all my subjects. This sickness of superiority infecting humanity to the point of seeing everybody as separate races when we're one human race, not seeing everybody as equal, not treating people as we want to be treated. I mean, this whole idea of good and evil, right and wrong, vice versus virtue has been played out over and over and over throughout all of human history. And it's like every time we get to a breaking point, it's this huge eruption of death. It's like we let the few evil people bring us to war, and everybody's sitting around going, what? I have to go to war? I was really just working on this painting. Now I got to go kill people? Okay. You know what I'm saying? It's absurd when we all want the same thing, right? What are we fighting
Yeah.
over? We're fighting over oppressing other people or not oppressing people. How about we just try to help create a better world for everybody so nobody's oppressed, for God's sake? It's not that hard if we look at the
Hmm.
systems we have. They are supposed to work in a certain way: water systems, energy systems, you name it. It doesn't have to be some corrupt, horrible, destructive thing. We can always be upgrading it and fixing it and making it work, in a holistic plan for everyone, right? That's the only way this is going to work. And I say that literally because it only takes a couple people to
Yeah.
pull out a gun and shoot everybody in a mall or explode a bomb to ruin everybody's lives. So let's not, think that this is like okay. This is not okay. And if we keep going this way with robotic futures and everything else, we're all going to die. Little tiny robots killing everybody or massive amounts of robots. You're not going to fight against that. You have no power. So
Yeah.
we either get a handle on some of this stuff or we don't. And that's why I think all this is happening right now. The rise of this whole, uh, the kings and the queens, dictators, and like that's supposed to the strong man, like that's the way that has been played out so many times in human history. That is not the way. All it's going to lead to death and war and more strife and more, rules and regulations. Everybody say, "Oh no, they're going to free us." No, they're not going to free you. They're not. The only way that we can make this world work is through some type of democracy that works when people are truly informed and we're on the same page. We're not being manipulated and lied to and everything else. And again, in the book, I outlined exactly how we do this. We need these certain systems to work for us. We can't have medias run by a few people, billionaires that are deciding what they want us to think like. You can literally in America watch the news and see uh, two different billionaires that are at war with each other. One wants to be dictator, and the other one wants to have government control everything. You know what I'm saying? It's like we there is a middle road here. There is a better road than what we've done in the past, and that's again why I think this has all happened because there's so many good people in the world right now. that get this and are like, yeah, we just need the new way to do it. How do we do it? How do we fix this? That's what I'm showing. I'm literally mapping this out to how we do it. And I just am trying to join with people because I can't do it myself. You know, a few clicks from billions of people and a couple bucks goes a long way. You know what I mean? Like literally, we can change the world. So it's through unity and us focusing on certain issues that we can literally make a better world for everybody, end the bullying, you know, and fix our educational systems and all the different systems of the world. I know I just went on there for a while. Does that all make sense though?
It does. It does. So there is the 3 books. I think I understand that there's
No,
already 2 out and
one
1
is
is
out.
coming?
Two are still. I wrote them all at the same time, just so everybody
Okay.
knows. They were written all at the same time. We had to break them up because they're too big to fit in one volume. I got ripped off by my publisher, so I had to figure out how to do this kind of all by myself. And the second book right now is in editing. So I'm just trying to. What I'm trying to do this year is like the book finally got out in the final version, the hardback in December of last year. So this year has all been about trying to go on shows. I've been on over 40 now, like my 43rd or 5th or something, and building up social media, trying to figure out how to get the word out because I don't know if people know publishing at all, but publishers, they don't give you any money to market your book if you're not super famous. And if you're not rich, it literally costs five to $10,000 a month to get like PR agents to help you get on shows and write stuff in magazines and all this stuff. And being a dyslexic guy, it takes me forever to do this stuff. So like writing an article for a magazine, I could do that tomorrow. I have people like, yeah, we'll post it. I'm like, yeah, well, I need an editor. You know what I mean? You need help. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to reach out
Yep.
and see if there's any people out there. I know you guys are all busy. I know that you have your lives. I'm not asking you to dedicate your life, but if you could just join me, I have a tribe I'm starting on Facebook. I know Facebook's not the best, but literally we can get 1 billion people there joined. So it's not, we could change the whole face of Facebook if you join my group. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all the different platforms. Join me, share, and then just do a little bit with me. You know what I mean? Like I said, seriously, if we can get this growing, I have a Patreon account. $1 a month from a lot of people can go a long way in helping people. You know what I'm saying? So if you can help me, I'm going to create solutions that will help the world. So I can hire people to do some of these things that has taken me forever. Um, so that's kind of like the mission. And again, this goes way beyond this book. I just want people to understand when I say I have spiritual experiences and all this kind of stuff to write these books, the book was literally just to codify these epiphanies and these major breakthroughs that I have had throughout all these, 30, 40 years of doing this into a way that you can understand. And when I say like the 7 steps, I had this huge breakthrough. Like it was like I was I was overwhelmed. I almost lost my mind doing this. If you saw how many words and how much research I had done to figure out the answers, it's mind-boggling. And I was working on this. I remember crying. I was sitting there on the weekends and begging God. I'm like, God, nobody is going to read this. This is 10,000, 20,000 pages if this is a book. This is insane. And God's like, no, you just keep going. It'll make sense. Trust me. This years and years and years go by, and I'm still doing this. And then one day, I'm sorting out the beginning and ending of this grander work. I call it the book, and it's got these 4 pillars of self, society, universe, and God. And I'm sorting out the beginning and ending of this, and I'm trying to figure out how I can kind of explain it all. And I have this series called The Great Books of the Western World. And at the very beginning of it is this great conversation. And it's like the great conversation of all the biggest issues in the world. And I was thinking, maybe I could do something like that. And I kept seeing my references to this is key to true success. This is key to true success. And I put all these keys together and I messed with them for a while and I put them in the right order. And it was literally like a secret code got unlocked. I saw the 7 steps and then I saw how all this information, maybe not every single thing, but the general theme of the biggest answers that I had found could fit within these 7 steps. And I could explain it to people to where it's not like you're going to class for endless years to try to wade through this tome. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you get the
Yep.
bottom line end result, boom, 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 next, boom, 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 next. You know what I'm saying? And you can then take it and run with it. Um, and when I showed this to the publishers, and again, it was in raw form. Everybody wanted my book. And when I talked to them, I didn't realize, but most publishers, they all know each other and sometimes they talk. I had this one publisher tell me, your book has been passed around between all of us, and we've looked at it. And I want to say this, that we all agree that nobody's seen anything like this before. Like in all the years of any book that's ever being published, they've never seen it. Two, that it was totally original. Like everybody's like, yeah, we've seen books like this, and it's a regurgitation of Tony Robbins or Covey or whatever, and they just kind of, reformulate it and say a little differently and whatever. And he goes, no, this is a totally new philosophy and a way of dealing with the world. And your style, and he starts complimenting me on my style. He goes, your style is something we've also never come across. He starts saying this. I was laughing. He said, why are you laughing? I'm like, my style is literally me trying to make like these 4 paragraphs, this idea just makes sense. Like if you saw what I had to go through, moving the paragraphs around, moving the sentences around, moving the words around, everything's backwards, everything's mixed up. And it finally makes sense. Like I could read it through and everybody can read through. Does that make sense? That's my style. He was like, and I just laughed because they say they love the way I wrote the book and how accessible it is, how, it's written in different chunks and it's easily digestible and you can pick it up again. And I was like, yeah, well, that's what I wanted because I don't know about you, how many books you've read, but so many people, they write to write. Like they want to tell a 15-page story to get to this point. And I'm like, I can't tell you how many self-help books and philosophy books and whatever books I've read that it's like the authors are in love with themselves and their writing. And I'm like, dude, do you not realize I have a life? I mean, just give me the answer so I can move on. And what I want to, I'll just tell you a couple epiphanies so people can realize when you're looking at all the self-help books in the world, the way is, and again, I'm going to shortchange it right now, but in bottom line, it's living rational positive action, which is about integrating virtues and best practices into your life. When you understand what a virtue is, you can look at every self-help book and all the success books, and all they are talking about different virtues. I don't care what it is: discipline, dedication, blah blah blah, being healthy, happy. That's all it is. And what I realized, one of the biggest epiphanies I had was that the whole idea of you becoming the best person you can be is all about you integrating these virtues into your life and best practices, because a virtue is what human beings value the most in ourselves and other people. These are the things, like I said, about being healthy and happy and wise and dedicated, have great relationships, communication skills, you name it. Those traits are virtues. And then it comes down to like, well, okay, and a lot of books, they'll tell you the virtue, but they don't tell you like literally, like literally, how do you do it? Like, how do you get that virtue into your life? It drove me crazy because they'll be like, oh, you just got to be healthy. It's like, whoa, that's a great thing to say to somebody, but literally, like, how do you do it mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and, all the rest of the stuff. So what I did is I figured out the granular details of everything you need to know. And I didn't fluff it up with all the rest of that stuff that people do. And I tried to condense it all down so you can get it all in as short amount of form as possible. And it's like one guy said, he's like, your one book is like all of Stephen or Covey's books, and it doesn't even cover everything. You know what I mean? It's like, and I was like, it's like the Think and Grow Rich for
Yeah.
the new age. One guy said, that's why when people read my biography, one guy said, your life is like, I can't remember the 3 things, but one of them was Think and Grow Rich. And it's because I spent 30 years doing this. And I laughed because Think and Grow Rich is about what super rich guys thought made them successful: money, wealth, and fame. And if you read that book, you'll see certain virtues in there, like going the extra mile and being dedicated, whatever it may be. Um, but they miss out on all the rest of them, right? Like treating people as you want to be treated and as equals and so forth and so on. So it created a distortion in the world. I mean, just look at the world right now. People are obsessed with wealth, power, and fame, and look what it's done to our world, right? It's not the goal of life is not wealth, power, and fame. Those are things you go through. They're challenges, the roles you fill, and if you don't handle them right, you're going to be corrupted, and it's going to help. You're going to be adding to the destruction of the world. The true goal of life is really for you to become the best person you can be and help create a better world. And that's the foundation of all of society. Just so you know, it's like if you look at all of religion, all of education, the whole idea of what a mother's doing, everything else, it's to help you become the best person you can be, live a wonderful life, help create a better world, or live in this wonderful world, and ultimately, if you're a believer, go to heaven. And again, that's summation right there. I don't want to underplay this stuff. It's like when I was young, my dad, when they discovered I was kind of gifted in different ways, he was like, just realize they give me books on Leonardo da Vinci and all this stuff. And they're like, you got to dedicate your life to something that's meaningful. Otherwise, it's just a waste. Like we have enough super brilliant financial wizards in the world. You know what I mean? Like they're all on Wall Street and great. And is it really helping the world? You know what I mean? It's like if we could find people that could solve the energy problems and water problems and societal bullying and everything else, that is what would make a better difference in the world. So I don't know. That was always ingrained in me as a kid. So this whole idea is about how do we do all of this? And that's why I wrote this book because, again, I talk pretty well and I explain these ideas to people and I share what I said, and everybody's like, "Yeah." So that's why I had to do
Yeah.
this. Um,
Can people, like you talk about the books and like some of the social media using, but do you have a practice that you actually like like are
yes,
available
yes.
to
I'm
help?
doing I'm working with a guy coaching I do
You
coaching because
do?
I've done strategic uh, consulting for 20 whatever years in my business. I done that and I stopped my clients when I was doing that more business wise. So now I do it more of a holistic coaching. And just so you know, when I've done the business coaching before, it also always comes down to the personal life because every CEO, every president, vice president, whatever of these companies, if their personal life is on the rocks, it's going to make their business rocky too. So the whole idea that your business is separate from your personal life is a big joke. That's not true. Uh, they are combined, and you need to kind of fix everything all at the same time if you're really going to be the best person you can be. So I do one-on-one coaching. I'm working with people right now. We're trying to figure out how we can do webinar, group coaching, create a series of videos so people can go in and get the training videos. Because I get it. I mean, not everybody can spend the time to read a book. It costs a lot of money to do an audio book. I would love to pay somebody to do that, but I'm just like I said, my dad passed. I'm taking care of my mom. She's got some major health issues, uh, and it's just it's not a good time for that. But so I think this is done so that I would have to reach out to people, and it would make it a better thing, anyways, if we're all kind of joined together and helping each other. And I think that's really how it's supposed to be.
And so, on that note, where can
Sure.
people
The hub
find you?
for everything is the website, and the website is Seven Way Me. That's the number seven way.me. And it's named that because the book is called The Way. The Seventh Foundation is the organization that's kind of supporting everything. And you can think of it like seven way me now. Think of it like a command where you say seven way me, it'll take you to the website and show you all this great stuff. So on that website, again, I'm doing it all myself and I apologize, but people say it's okay. You can find everything there. So you can see all the different you find where the way is. There's an action center there where you can get free downloads. That's where all the training is going to be. You can find all the social media links. We have a tribe on Facebook we're growing, a tribe on LinkedIn, doing live show. I'm doing the one show. I'm going to be teaching a lot of this stuff. I've shot 2 episodes. I'm just trying to figure out some formatting there. It's just a lot of work, like I said. So I'm just trying to like start this out. So I literally had nothing a year ago as far as any of this goes, and now I have 1,000 followers on all the different platforms or more. I have 20,000 on LinkedIn, and I'm just trying to figure out the next steps. So I'm looking for people to help me, and you can help just by giving likes and shares and donating $1. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like some. You have to dedicate your life, though. I am looking for those people too that really want to get involved and help orchestrate everything too. So Seven Way Me, join me, and let's change the world and have some fun at the same time.
Well, Andrew, thanks a lot for your time. It was time well spent. Like I love your approach. Like I love you know it, like discussing with people. Like the different perspective and the different opinions and the different approaches. Um, and whatever fits. Rocks your boat. Like for me, like there's no best way or better, like there's a way that fits your bill, and like there's a way that fits mine, and there's a way that fits anyone that listens. And like the one of the main
Yeah.
purpose of that podcast is to actually find find a way that can
Well,
actually help
let me just speak to that too.
the people.
That's why I named this The Way, because this isn't Andrew's way. I just want you to understand that the principles in this book are humanity's way. It's like understanding the idea of freedom. You know what I mean? You wouldn't say that nobody needs to understand that, or only some people. All people need to understand the idea of freedom, right? The same thing with how to drink water.
Hmm.
You need to know how much water you need to drink and when to drink it and all that stuff to be healthy. There's some things that you can do with your mind, or certain understandings just on how the world works that can help bring peace and understanding to people. So when I'm saying the way, it's not like this is like you have to follow this way. This is a customizable structure that fits to everybody's life. Okay, this is humanity's way for us to be our best people, and that's why it is the way. And again, I've shown this book to so many different people, and I've asked them the same question. And there's some people I've had people, oh, you're arrogant. How dare you? Like said things like that, like there's not one way for everybody. All of that, and then when they actually understand, they're like, you're right. This is so when I'm saying it's the way, it is the way. And if you don't agree with that, all I say to you is please challenge me then. Look at what I'm saying and then show me where I'm wrong. Right. And when you do that, I hopefully you'll join me and we can help spread this truth because it'll seriously change the world. And it's about you becoming the best you can be, not becoming like me. Does that make sense? It's just like you you get the certain
Yep.
principles and ideas into you and you customize them to fit your life and it will help you be a better person. You know what I mean? It's like writing whatever. It's like 4 + 4 = 8. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying to do a good job at representing what I'm doing, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes for sure.
Oh, and I mean, again, I love the podcast to be kind of like a platform for for every
Sure.
options, every opinions, like that, like there's like I have my own editorial, like where the line stops, like where like where it stops, like in terms of like because I've like I've been reached out by people that like reaches out to angels, like for example, and reaches out to spirits, and I'm like, okay, like
There's only so
I'm
far you can go.
I
Yeah,
need to
no,
be
I get you.
careful,
And it, yeah,
so and for me, like again, like if it fits their bill, I mean, like like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy for them, but like it's like the podcast has the potential to reaching
yeah.
out to a lot of people, and um that could be like I bear some responsibility, and like the people that I invite in,
No, and I totally appreciate that. And I
and I draw
appreciate
the
you giving me the opportunity. And this is where I think that the world is so fragmented and confused is because we don't have this kind of core idea of how certain things work. And the way I explain things is very logical. It's not superficial, and you have to take some huge leap, right? That's what makes it. That's why lawyers from Harvard Law look at this and go, "Wow, you're right." So, um, what I guess I'm saying is like those people that are lost on whatever fringe and they're not finding what they need. And I've seen it, it's like they're into one thing 1 minute and now it's, yoga or it's, I mean, I can't name all the different trippy things out there, but you know what I'm saying? They go to thing to thing to thing to try to find this answer. And that's what frustrated me because everybody's like searching and it just kind of makes me sick that it's like, why don't we know already? Like, why didn't Leonardo da Vinci why wasn't he hired by the church to figure out how to make people better people and fix the problems in society? You know what I'm saying? It's like we've been through this for thousands of years, and if you study history, you can see it repeating itself over and over and over and over and over again. There are certain principles and ideas that if we just all embraced and knew, we wouldn't keep going through this. So for me, it's like this idea of humanity elevating its consciousness, taking that next level. If you ever watch Star Trek, how do we get to the Star Trek in reality? How do we get to a better world? The only way you can do it is if the human race shares a basic understanding of some core universal truths and then stands together, united in a certain groups to make the changes happen in the world peacefully. And I literally outline these steps in the book. So, and again, that's why I'm here. So I'm not trying to push anything other than it's like I said, if you had the cure for cancer, you would be like wanting to share with everybody, and it might seem a little pushy, but it's not like anything you've ever seen before. So please, I don't care where you are and what you believe in your life. You don't know the way. You need to know it because it'll change your life. And that's just how we're going to create a better world right now. Is for us all to get on the same page, unite, and take some steps together. And if we don't, I just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's going to be horrible. I mean, this next round of war, it's going to be beyond. So I'm sorry to leave you on a negative note there. So let's leave on a positive note. We're going to make these changes happen. We're going to prevent the next war and fix all this stuff. And seriously, we can do this in a few years. It really, with the amount of people we have, resources and everything else, it's not even going to be that hard. I mean, think about 500 years ago compared to now. Look at the machines we have, and technology, everything else, and the amount of people. Oh, we could seriously fix this world really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, like I do believe so too. So again, really
Thank
thank you
you.
for your time, Andrew. Like it was like I have I have a great time,
Yeah, hopefully
and
we can do it again.
I good luck for your
Yeah,
project. Like I hope like I wish you the
thank you.
best of
I'd love to be
success.
on again. Maybe
Really,
we can go deeper into
thank you.
some issues and things. So, and again, peace, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us,
Awesome.
and I hope I see you soon. Okay, take care.
Take care. Bye bye.